Easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe, Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Yeah, welcome everybody to the live stream. As people are coming in, we want to hear from you, the audience. Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the chats. Today I'm joined by Omri Sorek, CEO of Trusstor, a company that provides safety software for the construction industry. And Omri is also a good friend of mine and a past EBFC show guest. So glad to have you back on, Omri. Talk about yourself, your story, your company, beautiful things you're doing on safety. Safety is a serious topic, and we're going to share some statistics for sure. But go ahead and tell everybody hello and let them know where you're calling in from, Omri, yourself, because I don't think everybody knows like where you are.
So good morning, everyone, and happy to join the show this morning. For some of you, it's morning. Now it's 2 a.m. I'm calling in from Tel Aviv, Israel, where most of our construction sites are actually in a dormant status right now, but it's someone's building somewhere outside in the world, and we need to make sure they're safe and happy in their working environment. So I'm very happy to join today, and thank you very much for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I love having you on. I love this topic. So before we get started, I want to remind everybody that safety is sometimes can be, something that we take for granted. It's not construction does not have the best record for safety as an industry in general. So just want to remind everybody that construction can be super dangerous. And despite our progress in training, I've got a couple things I'm going to share. So I've got some notes here. Um, the industry still bears a reputation for being very hazardous. Roughly 20% of worker fatalities in the United States are happening in construction. So that's a huge number. And even with that, construction workers only represent 6% of the U.S. labor force. So we're disproportionately not safe. Right. And then, in today's discussion, we want to shed some light on some safety things. Omri's going to share some stats with us. And we want to talk about, in lean construction, you can see it on my shirt. And if you've ever watched the EBFC show podcast, you know that respect for people is on top on purpose. So another thing, so just to throw some more numbers at you, because we just don't have enough numbers in our life, right, Omri? In 2020, we lost 1,008 construction workers, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a 25% increase in employment since 2011, and Hispanic workers saw a 55% increase in employment during the same period. And the fatalities among the Hispanic construction workers rose 90% from 2011 to 2019, outpacing employment growth in the industry, according to the Centers for Disease Control. And just one more stat, and I'm going to turn it back over to Omri. About half of the deaths in construction job sites are happening in companies with 10 or fewer employees among those who are employed. So yeah, there's some crazy stuff. And I like that Rena's going to,
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And Rena's going to lighten it up right away and wish me a happy birthday and ask me how it went. And it was a good birthday, Rena. Thank you. I was safe. And yeah,
I would sing for you, but I think that our audience would prefer me not to do so. I think it would be best for everyone.
It depends on if you're a good singer or if you're really bad. Then singing would be awesome.
I'm bad, even to a point that it needs to be reported bad. So it's that bad. It's like if I sing, people walk away, and it's really bad. But the stats that you just shared are mind blowing. And when you think of it, the things that we're seeing in our industry are so complex, and the people coming into the working environment every morning, showing up to a construction site, just coming in to do their job is crazy that we actually still encounter such high figures. Every person counts. I think that's a logo from one of my friend's companies, a company called Carbine. They do 911 technologies, and actually every person counts. And definitely in our industry, where we're so heavily dependent on people and the synchronizing between different activities in the working environment. So you see actually the effect of bringing in lean construction, and every methodology into the working environment and still seeing that we're affected. I think that the big four are the main causes for fatalities and construction, which are electrician, falling, and stuff like that. So it's crazy. It's crazy that we still need to face these issues on a day-to-day basis.
It
Um,
is. It is
but
wild, and every time I walk a job, I'm very cognizant of being safe and being incredibly aware of my surroundings and don't take for granted. And I actually enjoy. I'm one of those weird people, Omri, that enjoys going through a safety orientation because for me, it's like a cheat way to get the lay of the land, understand the logistics a lot better, and safety training is something super important. Even Rena's husband attended a safety training just this week. Yeah, Will, we're not taking you for granted. We want Will to come home safe every single day, just like
yeah,
Omri wants for his workers. And shout out to Matthew. I think he's in Oklahoma. Though he didn't tell us in the chat where he's at, but he's saying respect for people means everyone's counted, everyone counts,
everyone.
everyone. We got Texas showing up big for you, Omri. We got Jake Harrell here in from
Hey guys.
Dallas area, so it's good. Yeah, in lean construction, we talk about this improvement and Omri, you've got the insights with what you're doing in your company
Completely.
software. I'd love to hear like what are some surprises, as you've developed your product and seen safety statistics come out. What's something that people wouldn't know until they do the analysis like you have?
I think the going back to basics. People, you always think of safety incidents happening at the every the edge cases, but people forget about the mainstream and the day-to-day things that need to be operated in the working environment. I'll give you a great example. One of our construction sites that the system operates in identified constantly that the elevator is being operated without an operator, which is something that is super basic. And you know that saying that you have specific things happening for a specific reason, but no one takes it into account because when you think of it, operating an elevator in the working environment is not that complicated. We do it on a day-to-day basis when we want to get home or when we go shopping or anywhere. You just go in, press the floor, and you go to that specific floor. But in a construction site, it brings a whole new level of complexity. And the elevator, which is one of the critical lines of transportation in the working environment, has certain regulation. Like it's not fixated as part of the building yet. You need someone to make sure that the doors are closed. And we saw constantly operations using an elevator without an operator that raised the incidents in the elevator area by almost 18% when not operated without an operator. It's super basic. Make sure the operator is inside. Make sure that you go through safety training, even if you're going to do something as simple as climbing a ladder, even if it's a three steps ladder. Why? Because then when the in the safety orientation, you just make sure that the steps themselves are okay, that the string is okay, that it's on stable grounds, just as notifications and something to be aware of. And even if we're not thinking about it, we make sure it happens. And all of a sudden, the working environment becomes safer for everyone involved. Falling from a three steps ladder it could be fatal. So I think we're seeing really interesting issues. Not taking even the edge cases of working with hazardous materials or working with high voltage electricity. I think we talked about it in our last conversation. The working environment is actually a production line that produces itself. The complexity that it brings is the fact that nothing's visible. Truster focus on site visibility. We decided as our core values to create visibility for everyone in the working environment, and it goes both ways. For the workers to become visible and to be visible to things that they haven't been aware of before, and on the other hand, for management teams to be aware of the working environment itself completely And I think that when creating such visibility, you have the ability to tackle issues that will minimize safety. So, if going back to the production line example, once you see the entire production line, once you understand that the entire working organism, you can actually tackle specific issues and minimize those safety incidents even to zero. Take unattended safety hazards. We see a decrease of almost 100% with Truster to attendance in safety related activities. So if there's a dangerous activity being performed in the working environment and the safety manager is aware of it, this will minimize the chances of an accident because he will be aware of it. He will make sure to visit that point, both in terms of place and time, and then basically tackle that specific issue. So I think it all revolves around that as well.
No, it definitely does. And I want to give a shout out to Bolt's very own Kristen Clements, working with her on a big problem that she's using A3 thinking. So we're using lean techniques and methods, just like Omri's using the software to help people get insights and data. Some of that for us is going and looking at our historical safety information, like Kristen's doing now, and even interviewing people to get more information about what's happening. Is there, what correlations do we have? How is our safety reporting? Are we doing good root cause analysis? What in our system is causing people to be put in harm's way, and what low hanging fruit can we get now to grab onto and make better so that people can be safe? And we've got some reactions from a LinkedIn user saying, wow, eye opening safety aspects, mostly applied for big construction projects, smaller projects, not governed as closely, or related safety associations. That's true. There's a lot of oversight on the very big projects and not always for the smaller jobs. But we see in the statistics, Omri, that safety incidents and accidents don't discriminate the big and the small. They can happen on
Yeah,
both.
yeah, I agree, and we see, and it's all types of construction. When we talk construction, people when they close their eyes, they imagine a massive high-rise building, but you have infrastructure projects, you have single-family homes, you have renovations, you have so many different types of construction being performed, and the I think the combination between teams and activities is critical. I can completely I know it's surprising, but I can completely understand the reasoning behind small teams being affected more by safety incidents. They're not the safety training, the safety orientation probably doesn't happen as scheduled and as in a larger scale site where it's overwatched. So people will tend to say, "Okay, guys, let's check the box that we did a safety orientation this month and go by our day." And even to the point of having regulation involved. So one of the things that we do at Truster is we focus on certificates, but not in the certificate aspect of the documentation. I don't care if someone has the actual document or not. I actually want to know when he was trained and when his expired date is. So when it's about to expire, I want to make sure that someone from my organization or from the safety organization will retrain and will be aware of it. And I think awareness and the capability of controlling the working environment completely is key for the success and minimizing again safety. And I'm going to say it probably 100,000 times in our conversation today, but we can minimize safety incidents. It's doable. It's hard. It requires a lot of investment, both from the workers, but definitely from every I would say management function, whether it's a foreman, site engineer, project management, superintendent, coordinator, whoever you are in the working organism. Um, but it is doable, and every person counts. So
Every person
even
counts.
if
I
it's
definitely, Omri, I saw this morning on LinkedIn. I was up probably when your day was getting over. And thank you again for being up with me, past midnight. I super appreciate
ah,
it.
no,
But
my pleasure.
someone,
I'm looking forward for the next time as well. I'm starting to make a habit of it.
there you go. But there was a post on LinkedIn this morning where a dad had gone to work and he looked at his hard hat. He took a picture of it, and on the back of his hard hat, one of his kids had written, "I love you and come home safe" on the hat, and he wore the hat to work as a reminder that our families depend on us. And speaking of the home front, even Matthew's got a comment here that we can shortcut safety at home as well. And having this, I know Matthew personally, Omri, and he is a solid planner. He definitely plans to start the work to make, the issues clearer. And this stuff applies at home. And that goes back to those lean construction principles that we were talking about in the beginning. And that whole respect for people starts with you yourself at your home with your family. And that mindset goes to work. Now at work, you're coming into a controlled environment, and we can create some conditions so that it's easier for people to be safer. And I'll throw one more stat, because I've just got all these stats, Omri. Let me just get one more stat. Even just on, everybody has a back that works in construction. We have to lift things all the time. Back injuries, you've got the extreme where people's lives are injured or ended, but we also have back injuries as being a common type of injury in construction. And then here, according to the statistics, back injuries, workers with back injuries participate in back care programs are less likely to become re-injured than those that don't participate, according to the statistics. I mean, it sounds super obvious. If I get
Yeah.
rehabilitation, I'm going to get better. That's that same continuous improvement mindset where even if something does happen, we can learn from what's happening. We can make changes to check on that. And I think everybody listening, if you're watching this live or on the replay, thank you for tuning in. This is the EBFC show live stream podcast. And for those that don't know what the EBFC show is, I've got the magic help of a click to tell you.
The EBFC show exists to serve people in the construction industry.
And so it's all about easier, better, and faster, or easier, better for construction. And so I want to talk, we'll bring up one more comment, Omri, and then I want to dive into Trusstor so that people can
Sounds
see
good.
how it makes it visual. So we've got from LinkedIn again, safety training sometimes are treated only as a checklist type of compliance standard, which I agree, LinkedIn user, that is
Completely.
bad. And Omri,
By the way, just to add something to what you said, because it reminded me of something that was so touching that we saw in one of the companies that we work with, which is a major construction company. They suffered a really high fatality over a course of like 2.5, almost 3 years, with multiple incidents and too many safety issues. And they invested heavily into safety, and they had an open day for people to actually offer ideas on how to minimize it. And you remind me something with the helmet. One of the things that they've done is they actually reached out to families of workers to paint paintings of working safe in a working environment. So the men and women that showed up to the construction site would actually see their families painting on the wall, reminding them, be safe. Better safe than sorry. Better do something in a safe manner than an efficient manner. And it created such an impact that the company still does it. So every time you walk into a construction site and you take that tunnel into the elevator, even if it's in -3, you see paintings that kids painted on the walls for the family to see. And I think that was very moving. So you reminded me with the guy with the helmet and "I love you, come home back safely" um, uh, point, which is very cool. And regarding the back injuries, there are such incredible developments being performed in technology today for those specific issues. And you're completely right that we always look at the worst case of deaths and fatalities, but the day-to-day is something that we need to address. And there's exoskeletons being developed for construction people, so it's not only military use or logistic centers, but actually construction sites are about to see more exoskeletons, more uh, um, uh, 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 different transportation systems inside the working environment, exactly to address those issues. So I'm a big fan of those, and we're really waiting to see them kicking in and becoming a day-to-day part of our job.
no, I'm super excited to see. And, that's one of the things we're doing here with this type of show. The whole point of these conversations is to get this information out into the public. We've already seen in the chat. And if you're watching this on the replay, please continue to comment and make comments and give us feedback via the chat. Omri and I are going to be monitoring this chat. And I get notifications, Omri, so I'll respond forever if I'm awake, right? During
Yeah,
working
I
hours. But as
we're
people,
always doing it.
yeah, and I know you're always awake, like all the time.
Always.
I got to double check
Always.
to make sure that you're going to get some sleep at some point. But if you're watching this and you got questions for Omri or questions for me, feel free to drop those in the chat. There will be some Q&A coming up at the end, but keep those in mind. Omri, I'm going to give you screen control so that you can take us and dive into Trusstor.
Great. So I'm happy to have this ability. I'll take this. We don't need to see this. But basically, what we wanted to share today, super quickly, is how we see things. And I'm shared before that Truster is all about visibility. And one of the key factors that we wanted to create in the working environment is the capability of showing on-site management functions where everyone is and understanding what activities they're performing or supposed to be performing and what tools and materials they're using. So you can always mix and match and cross-refer informational sources in the working environment. Now, Truster works in three layers of information. The basic layer, what we call the LTLS or the real-time location system, has a core impact of oversee. That projection of location minimizes time from a safety incident occurring to management awareness and either their ability to react to it. So it not only shortens the awareness time, but it also shortens the ability to cut back on the duration of the total safety event. So running real quickly, I'll deep dive into to the safety applications of everything. So when you guys are seeing our dashboard, which is a snapshot. Of course, we removed the names of the companies to preserve their privacy, but this is an actual working environment midday, 2:32, about to end the day. Everyone's tired, and that's exactly the point where safety issues start to happen. On the left, you can see an overview basically giving you some general information about the site. So you know exactly how many workers you have on site, how many active floors, the allocation for the different professions. So you know exactly from each trade or each group how many people are there, the management team, and even the equipment that they're using in their activities. The main screen basically portrays the location and allocation on the side view of the building, as well as every dynamic working area. And I'll pause on that specific aspect. There are places in construction sites that are more dangerous than others. Take, for instance, high voltage electricity rooms, elevator engine room, um, even the pump room for pools. So those are areas that tend to be not as safe as the rest of the building itself. Those are areas that we put special emphasis on, and we want to monitor very closely, and we want to know who comes in and who comes out. Sometimes someone will take a wrong turn. The working environment is complex. We know people will walk around and will get into a specific location that they didn't mean to get there, either because they're trying to get out of the building or even if they're trying to get to the bathroom really quickly. So those areas give us the ability, and those areas being monitored give us the ability to actually control it. So you can see the allocation and location of the different personas. The orange emphasization marks refers to safety alerts. This has to be a different color. This has to be seen. This has to be conveyed using text message, WhatsApp, mail. For all I care, a pigeon. Deliver the information as quickly and as efficiently as possible. On the right, you can see a safety log portraying both live and resolved events from the working environment. Just looking really quickly on the safety log from this specific site, you can see three that are currently live. An emergency distress button alert. So everyone in our working environments basically carries a tag. The tag itself communicates the location. Of course, putting privacy at top of our mind, it only sends the location and the trade itself, so not giving any personal information. But in addition to that, it will provide, once you press 3 times, an emergency distress button that sends a message to the closest manager and to everyone in the working environment. The second factor is the unaccompanied guest. We constantly have guests in our working environments. We know that's an issue. We know that it happens, and people come to the construction sites either to see the apartment that they bought or even because they need to give some consulting. And the people that are not part of that working environment on a day-to-day basis, that tends to be a safety issue. And we always want to make sure that there's a safety manager or a manager next to them. And as I mentioned before in our conversation, not enough hoist operators on site. This can create a major issue, and we're seeing it again and again and again. If
Omri,
looking at the result, yeah,
you make
please.
a good point there because I myself am not on a day to day assigned to a single project, and I'm often touring with different project teams and all of the things that Omri's describing. If you've never been on a high rise construction project, these are daily things that are to be cognizant of, and you might not know, especially if it's your first time or if you're not in construction day in and day out. Even for some of the workers, Omri, as you and I both know, for a lot of the workforce, this could be the first construction project that they're in, and they don't have the decades of experience to know what the hazards are and how to recognize the hazards like trained individuals or experienced individuals in construction have. So I mean what I'm liking reacting to, and this is the first time that I'm seeing this myself, I love how visual it is. Like I can see the building,
That's critical.
right? The super critical and easy, like that orange tag is jumping out at me on the screen, telling me
Yeah,
that there's something to look into and something to check out there. So just wanted to give you that feedback. I like what I'm seeing.
very much. Thank you so much. And even to expand on that, we always like to give that example of everyone out there listening to us. If you're in not in a single family home, but in a building, try to imagine how many people are with you in the building and where are they located. So it doesn't have to be a tall building. It could be 7, 8, 10 floors. Try thinking if you can guess the number of people that are currently present with you in your building. You won't have a clue. You're going to be so far from the figure, and even project managers, really trained ones and really experienced ones, tend to miss by almost 25-30% the actual workforce that they have on site, just because the day happens, just because things ended and things are beginning. That team showed up. That team finished what they're supposed to be doing. So the real time and the visibility aspects are critical. Without those, our working environment becomes much more dangerous. So, and thank you for that, Felipe.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
And I just want to,
Um,
while we're just brainstorming, and Omri's going to get back into showing us some more examples. If you're listening to this or watching on the replay, feel free to share in the chat for the benefit of other people. What are some ways that we can prevent injuries on your sites, and then what are some ways that we can improve project safety? So if we're stirring your mind, like Omri and I are talking now, and we're remembering and chiming in, we want you to be encouraged to chime in the chat too, because you never know that that thing that you share with us today on this live stream or replay can help prevent somebody's injury tomorrow. So please
no,
feel free to offer
it
that.
saves people's lives. It saves people's lives, and I know that both you and I care so much about this topic that everyone from our team will be always at your disposal. If you have questions, if you want to know something, please reach out to any of us. Of course, to Felipe, he's always responding super quick and would be more than happy to help with anything. And although it's a very big industry, we all share the same thing in common. So please reach out, and if you have any question or you need help or you need any good advice or guidance, just let us know and we'll be more than happy.
Yeah, super
So,
appreciate it, Omri. Yeah.
the last part, and we'll dive into it in deeper in a minute, is the work plan widget. So, taking the lean construction concept and making sure that all activities are being monitored, not only for the efficiency aspect and making sure that the work sequence is happening and comparing actual versus plan, this has a critical aspect of safety. Knowing what's going on in terms of activities, knowing where you are in terms of activities, will create a common language between all the different functions on site, both workers and managers. Everyone needs to know where we're at every given point of time. So you want to know that you don't have a crossing between two activities that are supposed to be happening and they haven't started, or that they're colliding in the same area, and you have a clash between overstaffing in a specific area, or even using materials that you're not supposed to be using together. And we'll touch that in a minute. Pressing a specific floor will open a floor plan. Now, this was meant in order to give a zoom in on a specific location. So if something happens, we have the very unique ability of showing you where specific trade people are currently in that working environment. And I want to share a story that happened 3 weeks ago in one of our construction sites. So we've been doing multiple exercises with the fire department. And we're a fan favorite for fire departments for obvious reasons. And this specific task force has actually done a couple drills with us. And when they showed up to the site and they didn't know that that site had Trusstor in it, they saw our screen and automatically they asked, "You guys use Trusstor?" So the first thing that happened is that the fire department got badges themselves. So their boss could actually monitor where his guys are running inside the building. Now, for those of you that don't know, when there's a fire happening in a construction site or in every building, firefighters run up the stairs. They do not use elevators. So automatically in that stressful, critical, time-sensitive issue, they can be also be in a dangerous position as well, endangering themselves in order to get people. So they showed up into one of our construction sites that caught fire, the electricity shaft, really quickly saw the system, looked at the system, knew exactly where they need to go in order to pick up the people that are still present in the working environment, even to room level. So they don't need to clear out different areas unless told otherwise. And they made sure that everyone was taken out of the building. An average safety event globally is about 2.5 hours from point of awareness to completion of the event itself. Fires tend to be a bit longer. In this specific area, we completed the entire safety event in about 45 minutes, making sure everyone is out, putting out the fire, knowing that the entire firefighting team is outside, and every person counts, even for guests come to our construction site. So I'm happy to share that, and of course the impact that we made on firefighters as well.
Yeah,
We're actually present. Yeah,
that story that you're sharing right now, I think a lot of people listening don't know, unless you're operating on a high rise, like some of these special rules that firefighters do have. I've got some Chicago construction experience where I got to be in this exact type of situation. And people, you'd be surprised. Fires on construction projects are way more common than you think. This is why when your safety professionals are on the team to go do your inspection walks for fire extinguishers, or you've got burn or welding procedures, take that stuff seriously because, like Omri's saying, you just heard the statistic. On average, it can take over 2 hours to clear that event, and if you're in
yeah,
harm's way, 2 hours is way too long to be in danger, especially with an active fire situation. So it's really heartening to hear that you're cutting that entire time sequence down. But the radical thing, Omri, that I'm hearing is that firefighters knew exactly where to go and how many people were at risk. I mean, to have that information in real time, it's almost like I'm gonna like come out of my chair. It's so exciting to know that that's a possibility. I mean, that
same here.
is like a big deal. And so that is something super important. Sorry, I had to interrupt you. It's just too good not to
Uh,
make a
my
comment.
pleasure, and I feel exactly the same. I have an incredible team of people that, and I think one of the unique thing about Trusstor is the combination between industry and technology. So you see a lot of different tech companies that basically bring incredible technology, but it's not applicable or it doesn't match the situation on site. And I think that's something that we made sure that is happening is the fact that our team is compiled from people that have a lot of experience in the working environment, from project managers to subcontractors to foremen to site engineers to superintendents, coordinators, everyone from the working environment that basically had experience with different aspects, and our technology team. And the combination between them and seeing the bridging of both worlds is something that is critical. So thank you very much. And it's a great compliment. I'm definitely getting it from you. Uh, um,
I'm gonna zoom
and
here on this building to just make it a little easier for people to read too while you go back into your
yeah, of
description.
course.
Thank you, Omri.
By the way, one of the things that you mentioned was actually how we came to the equipment feature. Basically, we had a very talented safety manager in one of our construction sites. I think he was about to retire, and he told us that one of his critical things was the fact that he wanted to make sure that there's safety equipment for matching the activities that are being performed in the working environment. So if someone is doing, as you said, welding, he wanted to make sure that there's a fire extinguisher and a bag of sand next to it. So if something happens, they can throw it on on the fire itself. And we had that ability, basically saying him, telling him, there's a fire extinguisher and there's the activity being performed, and you can rest assured that it's being taken care of. And if it didn't happen, it would give him a notification saying, "Please place a fire extinguisher in this location," or "Please notify the manager responsible for that activity." And that's exactly the common language. That's exactly communicating the situation. That's creating visibility in the working environment completely. So I couldn't agree more. Um, I wanted to dive a little bit into the work plan itself. The working environment, as I mentioned before, is a production line. And at the end of the day, our goal is to create buildings. And what's unique about construction sites is the fact that it's a production line that produces itself. But there's work sequences. There are things that are supposed to be happening in the working environment, and you need to constantly make sure that there's no collisions between safety and efficiency. But at the end of the day, we work in construction in order to make it easier, better, more efficient, and faster, exactly as the show's name. But we're doing it while being safe. And we looked for that tipping point and that point of information that we want to make sure that on one hand, it makes sure that the project is efficient, but on the other, that it's still safe. And what we created as part of our activities creation is our digital whiteboard, our work plan generator, where you can actually either import from other last planners, which is key, and that's for a whole different conversation about connectivity and the must of communicating between different tech solutions. But also, I want to focus on this checkbox, the dangerous activity. When we focus and when we know that there's a dangerous activity in the working environment, it's another, those light bulbs when you have an idea behind you,
Yeah.
that issue. That's exactly that. It notifies someone. Someone is looking out for you. You know that if the dangerous activity checkbox is marked, the safety manager will come to visit you, and not in an annoying way, but in a way that is more accepting, is more cradling, is more taking care of you than badgering you for doing specific things. Um, of course, editing and changing everything in the working environment. But what I want to show you is at the end of the day, there's the ability to control the working environment. There's the ability to make sure that everything happens as it should. Running to the last thing is basically the summaries, which is the third level of information. So if we had the real-time status, we had the work plan, now it's the summaries. We want to know everything on one hand as human beings, but on the other, we want to make sure that the working environment is completely controlled. So, from our executive summary that portrays the work resource analysis of how many people were there, which floors did they work, the activities, but also the safety, the what, where, when, and how, and basically what safety issues happened. Of course, a subcontractor analysis, so you know exactly how many people came to the site, when did they show up. I got to tell you something that is mind-blowingly simple, but we've proven it to be creating a safer working environment. Every every person coming into the working environment needs to meet a manager when they come in as part of the process of checking into the site itself. Hi, good morning. Are you okay? Making sure people, God forbid, didn't drink or use drugs on one hand, but on the other, making sure everything's okay and no one's in distress or no one and everyone are aware and clear of the working environment and what they need to be performing. So they need to come across to meet a manager when coming in. But one of the major efficiency and safety, I would say, factors in that is the duration of time that people show up. So you have people showing up in 6 in the morning, but you have people showing up at 9. One of the things that we've noticed is the longer the duration of people arriving to the site, the more safety issues. And I'll give you the basic insight that we provided most of the companies that we saw that. Make sure safety briefings are done every half hour by a specific manager. So it's not every time that someone comes in, you have a disorganized safety briefing. No, wait for the next window of safety briefing, make sure everyone is there, and then they can go to the working environment. Because we're not going to change how they're showing up to the site or when they show up to the site, but you can change your habits and making sure. So you have everyone together every 30 minutes, start the safety briefing. A safety briefing will take anywhere from 10, 15, 20 minutes, and you get but the second one. This makes the site much more efficient, and automatically you see a decrease of safety incidents, and definitely the simplest ones, from walking into a non-authorized area or using a non-authorized tool that you're not certified to use, etc. So that was a very interesting cross-referencing of hour of showing up to the site, but also to the safety incidents as well. Of course, the work plan analysis of which activities do you have? Are they dangerous? Are they not dangerous? Did the manager attend and did he show up? And the capabilities in terms of breaking down those work sequences into the working area. So I think to summarize everything that I just shared with you guys, basically those are different aspects of the product itself that we focus, and we want to make sure that people are visible to the working environment. If you're visible, every person counts. So that's about that. Actually want to, yeah,
You want to share one more thing, or do you?
yeah, I want to try. Let's see if I can share it. I know it's
Yeah.
prompt, but
While
let's
Omri's bringing that up and getting ready to
yeah.
share, as a listener, if you're watching this on the live, or if you're with us live, thank you. Welcome to the EBFC show. If you're watching this on the replay, we want to hear from you. What steps can you take to prevent injuries on your construction site, as well as what are some ways that we can improve project safety? And we're going to open it up to Q&A after Omri gets his screen share
Yeah.
squared away and sharing. And we're going to ask
Oh,
questions
just,
about some.
I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready. Go ahead. Share
Yeah,
your.
I just want to share something that I didn't think that will touch, but I want to share it. What you guys are about to see is actually a new feature that we're working on. Felipe, just let me know that it's
Yeah.
we're seeing it and everything is done.
3,
It's okay.
2, 1, and it's there.
Okay, good. So what you guys are seeing right now is our investigation report. We actually created this after having a conversation with a couple of I think it was East Coast. Yeah, it was New York and Philadelphia GCs that wanted to give specific areas that they saw and they identified as being critical and dangerous, and people having recurring injuries there of the same type. So what we basically created is an investigation report that you can look at a specific area and understand who came across that area and what specific issues did they have. Did they have anything in common? And I think this even amplifies even more the usage of technology and cross-referencing of information between different sources. So we have the very unique ability, and when I say we, it's actually a computer that has the very unique capability of taking information from different sources very quickly and cross-referencing them. So this is to be provided either to the safety manager or even for insurance companies or anyone that wants to understand, and you can actually have a debrief and understand what happened in the working environment. You can understand the timeline itself as portrayed right here for a specific persona's route or for the specific area. So I think even that more amplifies the capabilities that are offered by Trusstor today.
Yeah,
So
that's a
I hope
lot.
that
No, that's a great share, Omri, because you're giving a lot of information there that people otherwise wouldn't see. Like, there's a lot of variation, and in lean construction techniques, we try to minimize variation so we can have a more stable, more reliable site. And I'll tell you that we don't get always, and every people watching this don't always have this level of detail for when something does go wrong and how we can learn and adjust and see trends. It's not always the case. So no, thank you for sharing that. Super
My pleasure.
appreciate that. Yeah, we do have some questions in the chat from people. I just want to showcase Matthew did share that connecting safety to family is super powerful. And the story that Omri shared about the paintings in that site and how that companies continue to do that. I love that example. But here's the first question, also for Matthew. How do you encourage safety response? Often team members get overloaded with information notifications, and especially, technology can overload us. Like I've been popping stuff up on Omri this whole
Yeah.
time, and he's been just handling it like a boss. So, how do we create a culture of swarming issues to not get a big backlog? So, Omri, with your system, Truststore's got information popping to people in real time, including the safety manager and other professionals. How do you deal with notification overload?
So I think the first key for that is prioritization. So you need to put things that are more important. So if a safety, someone walking into an unauthorized area, although dangerous, is less dangerous than someone pressing a distress button. Um, so I think that's the first rule. The second rule is allocation of responsibilities. So a building, like any production line again, you section it, and each person has its own section. So make sure that people are aware of their responsibilities, either for a trade or for a specific area. I'm responsible for carpenters, high voltage electricians, and the tilers. That's one method. And the other one could be by areas. You're responsible for floors 5 till 10. Make sure that everything in that area is under your responsibility, and you do a walk around every couple of hours to make sure everything's okay. So that's the second. The third one is, and maybe I should bump it to the first one, but making sure everything is visible. When you understand the situation, you react quicker. And it's okay to put responsibility on multiple personas as long as they know exactly what's going on between them and they can sync. So not widening the gap of information, but actually bridging it or making it smaller and more efficient. So I think those are the ones. And if a safety event is done, and that's one of the things that we're constantly seeing, and that's the reason that we did both the live and resolve safety events. When a safety event is done, make sure everyone knows it's done. Make sure everyone knows it's completed. So as well as you opened one, close one, and make sure everyone is aware of it. Take it off their list. Take it off their aspects. It's okay to investigate further later, but you want to know that. So Matthew, I hope that answers that. And by the way, you just gave me an idea together with Felipe, and we're actually working with a couple of safety equipment companies, and I'm gonna offer them a very cool concept of maybe giving um, specialized hard hats that you can actually paint on for kids, so people show up. So, like we have the stickers thing. We'll maybe try to do it with finger painting and maybe something happier or a picture of your family on a helmet.
That does sound like a great idea, Omri. And, some of the things that Omri is talking about, like he and I are both lean construction nerds, but for all the other people that
Definitely.
might not be, to that nerd level yet, like we are, making things visual, increasing transparency are both agile and lean methods that it just allows for work to flow so much easier. And then Omri, you talked about, visual work plans, closing issues out and also checking every day and being really clear on expectations, roles, and responsibilities. For people listening, you think that he says it like it's just every day, take it for granted. There are thousands of job sites where that is not the case, not normal, and is not occurring every day. So that is definitely something new. And speaking of workers, we got another comment for Matthew, another question. What do you do with resistance from craft workers being tracked? You mentioned privacy being a concern. How have you worked
Definitely.
on those issues?
So basically, we're one of the only companies that is GDPR compliant. So we put privacy at top of our concerns. We do not merge personal information with what we call business information unless say a safety event happens, and then you want to merge the information. And I promise you, when a safety event happens, no one will say, "No, I don't want to. I don't want you guys to merge my information." Um, Basically, we don't track people. We track trades. We track the working environment. No one gets notified in terms of efficiency aspect. So if someone goes to the bathroom for 25 minutes, no manager will ever get a notification. And we, as I mentioned in the beginning, we actually put a screen so the workers see exactly what the manager sees, and they know exactly what's going on. So no one really cares. And it is safety oriented. There's so many things that we can do today in order to track people, and track the activity and track the progress of certain activities, that I think that it became a part of us. We use phones, we use GPS all day. Knowing which trade is where is seriously one of the least of the concerns that people have in the working environments. Definitely when it becomes a part of their PPC, it's like their helmet, their gloves, or their hard hats or glasses. Sorry. So I think in that perspective, and just going back a minute before, if any of the people listening to us haven't seen the materials shared by Felipe on Scrum and how to manage the working environment in a very cool and progressed methodology, please do so. It's an seriously eye-opening. We have been doing in the company lectures to people and have been starting to implement that methodology. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's really incredible, and it's making a change in product. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I love that. We were talking before we went live on the show, and we were getting to all the serious safety talk. Omri had to tell me that he's been a fan of my posts on LinkedIn
Yeah.
recently, and especially those on Scrum. So you're in for a treat because there's going to be a lot more Scrum posting. I just promoted myself, and I said this publicly to Jason Schroeder on one of the comments. I promoted myself to the Chief Marketing Officer for Scrum in construction.
Scrum.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just share way more about examples and free resources. And there's a ton of free resources. If you go to my website, constructionscrum.com, you can read most of the book for free. There's free audio chapters. There's links to case studies. And if anybody's out there interested, scrumguides.org has the Scrum Guide for free, as well as I have a chapter in the audio book where I read the Scrum Guide from 2020, which is the current guide, with construction commentary. Because as Omri knows,
Very cool.
we speak a special language in construction,
Yeah.
and we've got to share those things in ways to make it easier and better. And Omri, I was excited to hear that you've got, your product team working in a Scrum like fashion. And we know,
Correct.
even if you do a lightweight Scrum, it's better than the big batch and queue, too long to change and pivot. And even from the time that I had him on the show to now, there have been so many changes to Trusstor. It's proof
Yeah.
positive that Omri and his whole team are drinking the Scrum Kool-Aid. And
Oh, definitely.
I'm definitely glad to hear that that is the case, and you're encouraging people to learn and continue to grow. And that is the whole basis of the show and why we come together. And I have the same philosophy that Omri has, that if you have a question at any time in the future and you need an answer, do not hesitate to contact us, even if you're watching this on the replay. It's been my pleasure, Omri, having you on
Thank
the
you so
show.
much.
Yeah, thank you for staying up so late with me. I want to just remind people in the Q&A to share in the chat in this channel, wherever you're watching this, on YouTube, Twitter, even if you're watching this on Twitch, on LinkedIn, on the replay. Definitely continue to make comments, and as a listener, share with people what steps you can take to prevent injuries on your construction sites, because you can make a difference in somebody's life for sure. Omri, I'm going to give you the last words after I drop one more safety stat. I've got just one more post-it note to read of another stat here to leave people with. Construction companies on average are spending only 3.6% of their annual budgets on injuries, but 2.6% on safety training. So despite the fact that we're investing in safety, and that can increase your profits anywhere from 4 to 7% per project. So think about that, people. You can spend more money on safety and get multiple margin increase. That's just good news for everybody. So that's a positive stat. Okay, Omri, I'm giving you the last. You get the last words after giving people the good news is that spending money on safety does pay dividends.
Completely. People think that creating safety products is just a social impact. No, this has financial implications. This has a financial impact. And taking the words of a great company, every person counts. So I think that summarizes everything. Every person counts, and make construction visible. Digitize it, use technology, and make it visible.
Absolutely love that. Omri, as always,
Thank you so much.
you're a safety star. I love having you on the show. Take
Thank you
care,
so
everybody.
much for having me again.
You're welcome.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's